Today we will be learning in Eruvin Daf Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph, and that is a hemshech to what we learned in Daf Lamed Beis Amud Aleph. Basically, we learned in the Mishnah. We learned in the Mishnah that if you put the Eruv in a tree higher than 10 tefachim, then it's not considered an Eruv. That's not kosher for the Eruv. And it was explained that the person, Shabbos, he's staying, his Shabbos, his Koine Shvisa, at the bottom of the tree, at the base of the tree. So if the person, his Shabbos living at the base of the tree, and he puts the Eruv on top of the tree higher than 10 tefachim, so then the Eruv is not fit to be an Eruv, and he can't, it doesn't have the extended area to walk. The concept why it's not an Eruv is based, we discussed it yesterday, I do no harm to go over it again. The concept why it's not considered an Eruv, because he is in one rishus, and the Eruv which is in the which is on the tree higher than 10 tefachim, it's in another rishus, because the person who's at the base of the tree, he is in a rishus Rabbim. That's what we're talking about. That's the scenario. So he is in the rishus Rabbim. The tree is 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim. So higher than 10 tefachim, it's a rishus hayachid. So therefore, since the Eruv is on the rishus hayachid, so that means he is in one rishus, and the Eruv is in another rishus, and that's not good for that you cannot have if you are living Shavis, your Koine Shvisa, where you're living is not in the same rishus as the Eruv, that doesn't work. You have to be living the same rishus as the Eruv. I just need to mention what was said yesterday, that if the reason why if he's in one rishus and the Eruv is in another rishus, it is not yotze, the Eruv is not kosher, is because it's not accessible to him. That means yes, it may be accessible. He can go to where the Eruv is, but he cannot bring the Eruv to where he is living. He cannot. Since the Eruv is not accessible to him, he cannot bring the Eruv to where he's Shavis. So the Eruv is on the tree. He will not be able to. He might be able to get up to the tree, but he can't bring it if he's Shavis. This way, staying Shabbos at the bottom of the tree, he cannot bring it because that's Rosh Hashanah, that's Rosh Hashanah. So the non-accessibility, that because it's not accessible, that's why if it's in a different domain, if it's a different rishus, so that's why it's not kosher. And when we say not accessible, it doesn't mean that the person has to eat the Eruv. We discussed that already before. The person does not have to eat the Eruv. But if it's so blatantly separate that it's not even accessible, so it contradicts the whole concept of the Eruv. So even though we don't need the Pelmamish, the person should actually eat the Eruv. We don't need that. But if there is a big divide, between the person and the Eruv, then that is then it's not a good Eruv. And the question is, where is the line? What's considered the divide? That him and the Eruv like separate, and the place where he's living and the Eruv is separate, so then it's not a good Eruv. What is the line? So if he cannot bring the Eruv to where he is staying on Shabbos, which is at the base of the tree, so he cannot bring it from the tree because he can't bring it to the Rosh Hashanah. So then it's not accessible. And therefore, with the principle of him being in one domain and the other being in, and the Eruvin being another domain applies, and it's not good there. But there is, I think I need to mention it again over here. There is two things. One, just to say that the whole accessibility, which we're talking about it being accessible, is only relevant to Bein Hashmoshes. In other words, if on Shabbos it's not accessible to the person where he's staying on Shabbos, that doesn't matter. But the main thing is it's not accessible Bein Hashmoshes. Therefore, if you have something with the Eruv is not accessible on Shabbos, but it's accessible Bein Hashmoshes. So if Bein Hashmoshes is accessible, then it's a kosher Eruv. And therefore, any if the reason why he's prevented from accessing the Eruv and bringing the food to where he's staying on Shabbos is because of an Issur Deraisa, so then it's not a good Eruv because he's in one domain and that's another domain. But if the reason is because of an Issur Derabanan, that's the reason why he cannot bring it on Shabbos from where the food is. He can't bring it to where he's made his place for Shabbos to be. If the reason is with the Rabbanan, then it's considered accessible. Why? Because the Issur and the Rabbanan, according to this opinion, according to the opinion of Rabbi, the Issur and the Rabbanan are mutter Bein Hashmoshes. So since the Issur and the Rabbanan are mutter Bein Hashmoshes, that means Bein Hashmoshes is accessible. Okay, Shabbos, it's not going to be accessible, that doesn't matter. As long as Bein Hashmoshes, it's accessible, so that it's not considered him and the Eruv being two domains, because it's accessible. If it's accessible, who cares? It's in a different domain, but still, nevertheless, it's accessible. So, therefore, it means that if the Issur of bringing it from where it is to where he's staying on Shabbos is only with Rabbanan, then it's a kosher Eruv. I think I also need to mention the point which was made that there is, because Eruv is only with Rabbanan, there is a certain kula which the Chachamim, they made a kula that even when it's not really accessible, it's also considered accessible and considered in the same domain. So sometimes it's in a separate domain, and the Chachamim consider it in the same domain. Why? Because the Eruv is in the Rabbanan, so they will make it. Because in a way, I'll use the language. In a way, it's in the same domain. It's not really api halacha of Hilchas Shabbos. It's not considered in the same domain. According to Shabbos, it's not considered in the same domain. But since in a certain way it isn't the same domain, so therefore, even though the poil is not accessible, but since in a certain way it's considered the same domain. Now, what is this certain way? These certain ways, that's very vague. What I just said. This certain ways is defined in halacha. What those ways are. Now, what are those ways? One, we mentioned that if the tree is in the city, so then the tree is considered, since it's in the domain of the city, so it's in the domain of the city, and the whole city is considered one domain. So even though it's higher than 10 tefachim, it's still considered the domain, because the entire city is considered like it's surrounded, and it's considered one domain. The city is considered one domain. Okay. So therefore, this din of the tree of being higher than 10 tefachim will not apply if it's in a city, if the tree is in a city. Another case, and that's relevant to us, that this din of him being in one domain and the Eruv being in another domain, it will not apply if it's in the same dal damas. In other words, if he is at the base of the tree and within dal damas distance from him on the tree, yes, he put it higher than 10 tefachim. But if it's higher than 10 tefachim, if it's on the tree, which is Rosh Hashanah, and he's standing down the bottom, which is Rosh Hashanah. But since in a certain way, Dal Damas is considered the domain of the person, we see it being to many halachas. It's a halachic definition. We can see it being to Kinyan Arba Amas, it's been Kinyan Arba Amas. We can stick, but that's not what the Gemara brings. The Gemara brings from different, from the din of in the Tchum Shabbos, a certain din in Tchum Shabbos. So there also we see this concept that's considered one domain. So since we see that Dalad Amas is considered the domain of the person where he is in. Even, so therefore, if the person at the base of the tree is on the tree within Dalad Amos of the person, it's higher than 10 Tfachim, the Eruv is there, it's higher than 10 Tfachim. So even though, as far as Hilchos Shabbos carrying the Poel Mamash, you cannot carry from where it is to where the person is, to where the person is, because he's from Rishus Yaakov Rabbi. Nevertheless, but since it's in the Dalad Amos, it's nevertheless still considered in one domain. And how come we're going against the regular Hilchos Shabbos? Because it's Eruv and Rabbanu will make, since in a certain respect it's one domain, we consider it in one domain, and it's kosher for the Eruv. Because the whole thing is also on the Rabbanu. So therefore, this Mishnah, that is what we're talking about. This is the end of what we finished yesterday. That this Mishnah is talking about, which says that higher than 10 Tvachim, if it's higher than 10 Tvachim, then you cannot, it's not a good Eruv. It's talking about that the person made his center of living at the base of the tree, and the Eruv is more than 4 amas away. It's on a branch of the tree, which is more than 4 amas away. The branch extends from the tree, and it extends more than 4 amas, 6 foot, right? So the branch is extending more than 6 foot from the base of the tree. If and that's why he put the Eruv at the point past the 6 amas. If he put the Eruv at the point past 6 foot, he put the Eruv further away than 6 foot on a branch of the tree, but further away from the tree, more than 6 foot. Then it's outside his domain. The lenient, the leniency is outside the leniency of that domain, and therefore we go to the strict halacha that it's on that since it's on the branch, it's a Shus Yachid, and the person is in Shus Rabim, so it's not accessible. It's considered not accessible, and therefore, since it's considered not accessible, we cannot be considered as an Eruv, because it's like he's in one domain and that's the other domain. Just to point out that when we say the branch, that the branch is considered a Shus Yachid, so Tosfos points out there must be that you can't pass under the branch; it's blocked under the branch. Because if you'd be able to walk under the branch is it's on the branch, it's higher than 10 tefachim, but underneath you can't walk underneath. That's what Tosfos says. Or he gives another scenario, but doesn't matter. But the main thing, yeah. So it's considered the branch. It's such a situation that it's considered a shus. Okay, where we are on for is so everything what I said that was discussed in the Gemara yesterday, and now the Gemara asks Maila Mata. So the Gemara just asks, why do you use the language Maila Mata? The Maila Mata is in the Hebrew way of how to use language. If the branch is higher than 10 tefachim or the branch is lower than 10 tefachim, you shouldn't use Maila Mata. You should say Gavaya mit 10 tefachim or Nomach mit 10 tefachim. Yeah. So the fact that we're talking about Maila Mata, it means that in that branch itself, there's part of it where you can put it higher than 10 tefachim, part of it higher and lower than 10 tefachim. And so that the Gemara is asking, if the Mishnah is saying L'mayla Mata, how does that fit in with the scenario we gave? You put it in a branch. If you put a branch in the branch, it's not fitting to say L'mayla 10 tefachim L'mata. You see Gavoya, the branch is higher than 10 tefachim, or it's lower than 10 tefachim. What do you say L'mayla L'mata? L'mayla Mata means on the same branch itself, it's a bit higher up or lower down. So the Gemara says, the Hoda Zakit. That the Hoda Zakit, that is talking about the branch extends outwards and at the straight line. Then the branch goes upwards. The branch bends and bends upwards. So therefore, in the branch itself, the branch is say lower than 10 tefachim. Lower than 10 tefachim. But then when after 6 foot, it sort of bends upwards. When it bends upwards, so then you have 2 points. You have a point there which is lower than 10 tefachim. You have a point there which is higher than 10. That's the answer to the Gemara. Okay. And so if it's lower than 10 tefachim, then you can't take the Shabbos because there's no Rishus Yaakov Rabbi. Since there's no Rishus Yaakov Rabbi, so therefore it's considered accessible. If it's higher than 10 tefachim, it's considered not accessible. So the Gemara asks a question: that even if it's higher than 10 tefachim, he is able to go up on the tree, let him climb up on the tree. You're not like climbing a tree on Shabbos, but that doesn't matter. It's Rabbanos. It's not relevant. It's not relevant to being Koine Shvisa Ben Hashmos, like I said before. So he could climb up on the tree, and then when he and he'll bring down the Eruv through the it bring it down, so the branch goes upwards. It's higher than 10 tefachim. So he brings it down to lower than 10 to lower than 10 tefachim. Lower than when it brings down to the part of the branch which is lower than 10 and then because the main branch is lower than 10 tefachim, it turns upwards higher than 10 tefachim. The Seder. So let him take it from where it's higher than 10 tefachim, which is Rosh Yachid. Then let him bring it down and on the rest of the branch, which is lower than 10 tefachim. And if it's lower than 10 tefachim, so therefore it's not Rosh Yachid anymore, it's a Karmelis. And looking in traces, I think the Pshat in Rashi is that he'll sort of stop over there. He'll make a stop over there, so he'll put it down there. He'll find the Karmelis, and then he'll pick it up from the Karmel, and then from the Karmel. So he's able to access it. Why? He doesn't do it in one go. He goes up, takes the food, puts it down on the rest of the branch. The part of the branch which is low, which is the Karmel, which is only Midbanon. Since it's only Midbanon, it's not relevant to prevent him from to do it on Bein Hashmoshes. So in theory, he could do it Bein Hashmoshes, and then from the Karmelis, he could then bring it down to the base into Rosh Hashanah. So therefore, why does Mishnah say that with higher than 10 tefachim it's not accessible? It is accessible. It is accessible if he makes one stop in the middle. So the Gemara says, that that it's based on the teaching of Ullah. He says if you have a pillar in the Rosh Hashanah which is 9 tefachim high, and people use that to rest on it or whatever, they take a bit of a rest, and they sort of so then that is considered Rosh Hashanah. So normally, if it's less than if any Omud in the Rosh Hashanah, if it's 10 tefachim high and it's 4x4, it's considered a Rosh Hashanah. Now, if it's lower than 10 tefachim, we said before, it's lower than 10 tefachim till 3 tefachim, it's considered a Karmelis. Between 10 and 3 tefachim, the height is considered a Karmelis. But if it's 9, which is very suitable for people to rest and put and unload the load which you're carrying and leave it there a second, and then they put it back up again. So it's just a very useful thing for Rosh Hashanah that height, and therefore people actually use it unless it's in a place where people use it. So there's something which people use. So then that is considered Rosh Hashanah because that's considered Rosh Hashanah. So therefore the branch is saying that the branch is a branch which people use. So when can you not? When the Mishnah says that you cannot, it's not accessible. If you can't even bring it through the branch, why? Because the branch is at the height of Tisha, and therefore, and people rest on the branch, unload the stuff on the branch, put it back up. It's just very useful. So. Sorry, I didn't explain that. That if you throw something and it rests on there, it's high. What it means is that if you take something in the Rosh Hashanah, if you throw something 6 foot, the distance of 6 foot in the Rosh Hashanah, you're high. So if I in the Rosh Hashanah I take something and I throw it, what's the distance you have to throw it? 6 foot, Arba Amas. So I throw it 6 foot and it landed on this Amud, then I'm high because it's Arba Amas Rosh Hashanah. It's considered Arba Amas Rosh Hashanah. So the same thing also, it's considered, that's what Ullah said. Therefore, it's considered Rosh Hashanah. It's irrelevant to us. He has no Karmelis in the middle where he can rest, and this where he can rest his Eruv. So therefore, since there's no Karmelis in the middle, so therefore it's not accessible because it's going from Shiyachet straight to Rosh Hashanah. Okay, and that's what the Mishnah is talking about. Quite a complex scenario that when the Mishnah is talking about. Okay, another Gemara says, "My Rabbi, my Rabbanan." We said before, we based it that Rabbi says that Rabbi says that in Hashmoshes you're allowed to do the Isra de Rabbanan. You're allowed to do Isra de Rabbanan Hashmoshes because it's Sofek Yom Sofek Laila, and the Rabbanan is Sofek de Rabbanan L'Kula. No, Sofek de Rabbanan L'Kula. So in Hashmoshes you can do Isra de Rabbanan. So where is? And we said it's Machlokes of Rabbi and Rabbanan. Rabbi says you can do it. Rabbanan says you can't. My Rabbi Rabbanan, where's Rabbi Rabbanan? Tani went the price. Nosna be'im l'mayla masara. In Yeruva Erev. If you put it on the Erev on the tree higher than 10 tvachim, it's not an Erev. The Matan Sar tvachim are Erev. If it's lower than 10 tvachim, is an Erev. Just like the Mishnah. But it says, also literally, but practically you're not allowed to take it. Because, yes, it's an Erev, but Shabbos, if you want it on Shabbos, you're not allowed to take it. Because we mentioned before, it's a Carmelist. You cannot carry from a Carmelist to Rishus HaYachid. But it's only Rabbanon, so therefore it doesn't affect the Erev. Therefore it doesn't affect the Erev. Why? Because we don't care about Carmelist Ben Hashmoshes. Why don't we care about Ben Hashmoshes? It's only the Rabbanon. Thing which is Rabbanon, we don't. You're allowed to do it in Ben Hashmoshes. So Ben Hashmoshes, you were able to take it. The rest of Shabbos, you're stuck. Yeah, you can't take it because the Rabbanon don't let you. So but also literally you're not allowed to take it, but it's good Erev because the Ben Hashmoshes was accessible. Shloisha, if you put it less than the 3 tvachim, mutter literally. So then you're allowed to take it. Also, you're not allowed to take it because on a tree. I've got to mention that. You cannot take it because it's if another reason why I can't take it is besides being karmas, you can't take it because we can't take it from a tree. We take it from a tree, you mishtamish to the Shabbos, but it's also Xer Derban. It's also Xer Derban. You're not allowed to mishtamish the tree on Shabbos. So therefore, the point also because you mishtamish the tree on Shabbos. Shloisha, what happens if it's you put the area below 3, then then you're allowed to take it. Why? Because the din of not being able to use a tree on Shabbos only applies to 3 higher than 3 tvachim. If it's the first 3 tvachim, the gzeira does not apply. It's like it's on the ground. First 3 tvachim is like it's on the ground. So there's no problem of cameras, no problem. There's no problem of using the tree. Lower than 3 tvachim, if the lower the part of the tree, which is lower than the 3 tvachim, you're allowed to do on Shabbos. There's no gzeira derban. Okay. If they put in the basket on the tree, he put the basket on the tree, and he put the basket on the tree, and then he put the Erev in the basket. I feel the even if it's higher than 10 tvachim, the Erev is also good. So if you put the later the Gemara will discuss it why, but so if you put the Erev in a basket and it's even the higher than 10 tvachim, it's good. Now they say the Chum say if you can't take it on Shabbos, you cannot take it. The Erev is not an Erev. The Erev is not an Erev. The Chacham Erev high. Now what's the Chachamim talking about? They say if it's in a place that you cannot take it on Shabbos, the Erev is not an Erev. If you say the Sefer talking about the basket, that they say it's going about the basket. They're arguing the basket that you're not allowed to take it on. They're arguing about the basket. So why should they argue about the basket? You're allowed to take on Shabbos. The basket you're allowed to take on Shabbos. Do they say that if it's not directly on the tree, it's a bit? Tzedodin means it's not mamish on the tree. Like for instance, the basket. The basket you're not allowed to use the tree, but the kalkola, the basket which is on the tree, that's called stodin. It's called stodin. And therefore, that is the gzeira of using the basket, which the basket is on the tree. That's okay. So it's allowed to put the basket on or to take the basket off. You would not get it out. But if you put something in the basket, take it out of the basket, that is permitted. That's and what you say. The Rabban argue. What do they say that stodin that it's also ella aresha. So there is obviously talking about the ratio. So therefore, right, it's talking about the ratio. The kids are it's talking about the ratio. So what are they saying? They're saying in the ratio that even though you're not allowed to take it, because you're not allowed to take it, therefore it's not a good Erev. Since you're not allowed to take on Shabbos, you're not allowed to take it, it's not good Erev. But the reason why you can't take Shabbos is only Yisud Rabbanan. It's only Yisud Rabbanan. Because you're not allowed to, what's it called? You're not allowed to take from a tree. So what do we see? So we see the Chachamas that yes, Isra Rabbanan is a good enough reason. Why is it not good? Isra Rabbanan, Ben Hashmoshi, you can't take it. Because Rabbanan hold the Isra Rabbanan, you can't do it, you cannot do an Isra Rabbanan Ben Hashmoshi. The Chacham hold you cannot do an Isra Rabbanan Ben Hashmoshi. So therefore, Ben Hashmoshi, it's not accessible. Even though it's only the Isra is only Rabbanan, it's not accessible. It's not accessible. So therefore, it's not a good Erev. The Rabbi who holds it isn't a good Erev. It's Isra Rabbanan. Because he's still considered accessible, even to Isra Rabbanan. Because Ben Hashmosh you're allowed to use a tree Ben Hashmosh. It's Isra Rabbanan. But then Ben Hashmosh you're allowed to do an Isra Rabbanan. The kids so that is the machlokes where you have whether you're allowed to permit it to do Isra Rabbanan Ben Hashmosh or not. between Rabbi and Chacham. Now the Gemara says, "Hi Ilan Heichadon." This tree. What exactly? What's the scenario of the tree? If it doesn't have four tefachim, so then mokim p'turu. So the scenario should say no 4x4. So it's the higher than 10 tefachim. Higher than 10 tefachim is a mokim p'turu. Therefore, you're allowed to carry from the mokim p'turu. From a mokim p'turu, you're allowed to carry to Rosh Hashanah. It's not a problem. You can take it down. I mean, there's no the Issa from Shusha. There's no Issa Raisa involved. There's no Issa Raisa involved. Because Issa Rabban is not a problem. According to Red. But nevertheless, it's higher than 10 tefachim. Rabbi says you cannot use it for an Erev. Why? Because it's the Raisa. What's the Raisa? If it's less than 4 tefachim, it's mokim p'tur. The mokim p'tur is b'chlal. It's a mokim p'tur. B'chlal you're allowed to take from mokim p'tur and put it into Rishus Yachid, or you can take from mokim p'tur and put it in Rishus Yachid, or vice versa. Anyway, but so it's a mokim p'tur. So if it is garba, so we say, it's talking about the tree is 4. It's 4 tefachim. It's high 10 tefachim, and it's 4 by 4. 4 by 4. It's a Rishus Yachid. Shayachid, then you can't carry from Shayachid, you can't take it to the base, which is Rosh Hashanah. No. So why all of a sudden when you put it in the basket it's okay? Can it's not like a column I have? If you put it in the basket, why is it a good area? It's a good. It's if you talk about you put in a place, you place the sun which is 4 times, which is Shayachid, you can't. The Gemara says, "Amar Ravina Reisha the Isbi Arba." The Reisha is talking about that that there is 4 tefachim. The tree has 4 tefachim. The story of the basket is talking about that you put it on a place of 4 tefachim, but the basket is 4 tefachim. The basket on the tree is 4 tefachim, but the tree is a bit slimmer than the basket, and the tree is a bit slimmer than the basket, and the tree does not have 4 tefachim. So therefore, a sefer, which is talking about the basket, the less be arba. The tree itself doesn't have a bar. It's talking about the same scenario that you put it on arba. Why? Because you put it in the basket. The basket has a bar, but the tree itself doesn't have a bar. The sefer, the less be arba. And the basket that makes it 4. Since the basket it makes it 4, the kitzur it's going to be based on later, which we'll speak about it tomorrow. Is that since the base is less than the tree is less than 4, it's not considered a Rishus HaYachid. The fact that the basket is 4, but since underneath it becomes narrower, than 4, it becomes narrower. So therefore, it's not considered a Rishus HaYachid, and therefore you're allowed to carry.